We open up on a clock tower, kind of a classic clock tower, and Mater and McQueen are watching, and McQueen kind of looks over, and we see the clock strike 1 minute, and Mater freaks out. Ah! What's got into you? Well, you know, time traveling really freaks me out. McQueen's all, Mater, just because the clock moves doesn't mean we're time traveling. And Mater says, shoot, I know more about time traveling than you. I used to be a genuine time machine. McQueen kind of looks at him and goes, oh, I've got to hear this one. Mater's all, you sure do. It all started when I was driving in this thunderstorm. And we crossed us off to a stormy night, and Mater comes rolling up the road and gets zapped by lightning. Sheriff is over behind his speed trap, and he kind of sees Mater getting zapped. He's all, Mater, are you okay, son? You shouldn't be driving out in this storm. And Mater says, I think I'm okay. I better do me a diagnostic check to be sure. Side view mirrors, check. Headlight, because he only has the one. Check. Toe thingy, clink, clink, check. Exhaust, check. Sheriff says, you think you can drive? Mater says, I don't know, let's see. Forwards, check. Backwards, and he just kind of takes off. And he kind of goes into this weird time portal, leaving a flaming trail, and we see him going back through time. And he kind of reappears in what looks like Radiator Springs. There's flows, and he's kind of looking around, and he sees Sheriff, and he drives over to Sheriff. He's all, Sheriff, what in tarnation just happened? Sheriff kind of looks at him. Oh, I don't know, but you look like a wreck. Take a bath, you hobo. Mater's kind of confused. He wheels over, and we notice in the background it says Lou's House of Tires, not Luigi's. Well, something ain't right. We see another blue truck roll up that looks just like Mater, a vintage Mater. And this Mater says, well, hey there. And our Mater says, well, hey there yourself. What? And he kind of freaks out. He's all, you look like you rolled out of the factory in 1955. And the blue Mater says, that's funny, I did just roll right out of the factory. And it is 1955, you crazy old truck. And Mater freaks out. Ah! He realizes he's talking to himself. And when he goes backwards, he goes back through the time portal again. Since being zapped by that lightning, he goes back through time and ends up in the middle of the desert. Kind of pulls to a stop past this couple of old cars, an old Model T and an old Model T truck that are sitting next to this bubbling brook. And Mater says, hey, old timers, where are we? I think I'm lost. And the Model T turns around. We see that it's Lizzie. And she says, who you calling old timers? And Stanley looks up and he's all, now, Lizzie, let's not give this dandy the business. We're just filling up our radiators here at this old spring. Did you just say Radiator Springs? And Stanley says, you know, I didn't. But that sure do have a nice sound to her. Radiator Springs, established 1925. And Lizzie says, oh, Stanley. Mater freaks out. 1925? But that means I'm time traveling. Ah! And he goes into reverse and pops up in what looks like ancient Rome this time. There's a bunch of chariots that are growling at each other, having a chariot battle, and Mater just busts right through them. Gladiators kind of fall, and they look at him, and they're all, you know, very primal, and Mater's freaking out, and they chase after Mater. Mater doesn't know what he's gotten himself into, and because he's driving backwards, he zaps back through time again. Appears back in a really primordial era, and there kind of stops and looks around. This is kind of a misty, tropical jungle, and he's never seen flowers this colorful and beautiful before. And you get to see them here in glorious black and white. But trust me, they're colorful and beautiful. And Mater looks around and he says, well, this is kind of pretty. He's a little bit more at ease, and he rolls up to a big oil pit. He's all, look at them oil puddles. Doesn't realize it's a tar pit. And we hear some rumbling in the jungle, and a wheel rolls into frame, and another wheel, and they're made out of stone, and they're all kind of looking at Mater. They don't know what to do with Mater. It's all, hey, they're kind of funny. Kind of tries talking back to him, and behind Mater out of the tar pit, a big comes an actual dinosaur, because, Dinoco had to have been named after something. And Mater kind of freaks out again, and the wheels run, and another dinosaur grabs Mater, and it's a big T-Rex, and it throws him up into the air, and Mater's all, because he was flying backwards through the air, he zaps through the time portal. He's still in the air, but he's flying past these shapes, and he realizes they're flying cars. So now he hasn't gone back into the future, he's gone forwards into the future. And Mater's flying, and one of them flies up, and it's got buck teeth, and it's a flying tow truck, and Mater kind of looks, and there's this crazy city from the future, and the flying tow truck has caught Mater. And we crossed us off back to McQueen, who's still listening to this crazy story Mater's telling. He's all, Mater, there's no way you traveled through time. Ah, shoot, you remember, you was there too. What? We see the time portal kind of appear behind McQueen, and Mater pops in, and there's two Maters looking at McQueen. He freaks out when he sees the other Mater. And McQueen's all, wow, there's two Maters. And the other Mater flies up into the air, and we see his wheels kind of retract underneath. We see that one can control time and freaks McQueen out. Mater kind of looks up at the clock, and it ticks again, and Mater freaks out, and freaks backwards, and we iris out. So again, this was an early pitch. It was a first pass that was done in maybe the course of, 3 or 4 days to get ready for a pitch, and I'm not even sure that it ever even really got pitched, but it has been now, and you got to see backwards to the forwards. Thanks.